Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to tackle something that practically every investor wrestles with at some point, and that's the urge to tinker. Our goal today is to completely detox your portfolio from the hidden costs of unnecessary complexity. We're diving into sources that reveal how keeping things remarkably simple, specifically by building a bulletproof US ETF portfolio, isn't just easier on your stress levels, it's actually mathematically superior for your long-term wealth. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll breeze through the complexity trap, figure out how to choose your core ETF, look at strategic portfolio additions, and finish up with frictionless portfolio maintenance. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The complexity trap. We're looking at why doing more actually costs you more, starting with the very real financial damage caused by what sources call the Reddit portfolio habit. Basically, that overwhelming temptation to constantly add new, buzzy funds to your mix. $90,000. Just let that sink in for a second. That massive number represents the potential 30-year cost of just tinkering. Our sources ran the math on an investor putting away $500 a month for 30 years. An investor who just buys a simple, all-in-one fund ends up with nearly $567,000. But the investor who mixes and matches, adding a dividend ETF here, maybe a sector ETF there, ends up paying higher blended fees and frequently underperforms the market because of poor timing. The difference? A massive 90 grand loss to manufactured complexity. Ouch. As Charlie Munger brilliantly put it, the first rule of compounding is never interrupted unnecessarily. Every single time you pause to guess which of your multiple funds to contribute to this month, or every time you hesitate because the market is shifting, you interrupt your portfolio's ability to grow. It's pretty simple. Complexity causes friction, and friction interrupts compounding. So this leads us to what we call the illusion of diversification. You might think you're spreading your risk by holding a total world fund like VT and then slapping an S&P 500 fund or a tech ETF right on top of it. But underneath the hood, you're literally just buying Apple twice. You own Microsoft twice. You own Nvidia twice. You are paying multiple management fees to hold the exact same stocks. It just adds extra paperwork without actually spreading your risk one bit. Moving on to Section 2. Choosing your core ETF. If we're going to simplify this whole shebang, we absolutely need a rock-solid foundation, and that means a globally diversified, all-in-one equity strategy. So, when you're building out that core, you could absolutely split your equities. You grab a US total market fund like VTI and an international one like VXUS. But an even simpler route? Holding a single fund like Vanguard's VT, which captures the entire global market in just one ticker. Now, while splitting them might save a tiny fraction of a percent in fees or offer a slight foreign tax credit, holding VT offers pure automated simplicity. You just set it and forget it. A total global fund like VT just automatically balances the world for you. Right now, it sits at roughly 60% US stocks and 40% international stocks. You don't have to stress or guess which country is going to perform best over the next 3 decades. You simply own them all, and the fund adjusts organically as global markets shift. To put this incredible diversification into perspective, 9,800. That's how many underlying companies you're getting across the globe with a fund like VT. You get large cap, mid cap, and small cap stocks, all wrapped up for a hyper-competitive expense ratio. It is a phenomenally low-cost choice to act as the absolute engine of your portfolio. Okay, Section 3, strategic portfolio additions. Because look, while a 100% equity portfolio works wonders for some folks, let's explore the legitimate, objective reasons you might strategically want to introduce fixed income or cash. Here's a quick look at how you can actually add stability or manage cash without creating that messy overlap with your core equities. The real secret sauce here is that zero overlap factor. If you add a short-term treasury fund like SGOV or a broad bond fund like BND, you aren't accidentally buying tech stocks all over again. You are adding entirely different asset classes to build out a truly bulletproof 3-fund portfolio. Now, a really crucial takeaway here. A short-term treasury fund like SGOV is absolutely brilliant for parking emergency funds or short-term savings right there in your brokerage account, earning you some very competitive yields. But you gotta remember, it's a cash management tool. It's not a growth investment. It is not designed to aggressively outpace inflation over a 30-year timeline the way your core equities are. And what about bonds? Well, adding a broad bond ETF like BND or AGG should strictly be about smoothing out the bumps and protecting your capital, not chasing high returns.
Our sources suggest you really only do this if you're nearing retirement, if market swings are literally keeping you up at night, or if you need a specific stock-to-bond ratio. If none of those sound like you, honestly, your core equity fund might be all you need right now.
All right, bringing us to Section 4, Frictionless Portfolio Maintenance. This is all about keeping things beautifully simple and ensuring you don't slowly fall back into that complexity trap over time. So here's a highly practical, step-by-step framework our sources put together. They call it the simplification test. First, if you own an ETF just because you saw it on a forum but you can't actually explain what it does without Googling it, you probably shouldn't hold it. Second, poll the top 10 holdings of your funds. If you see the same tech giants across multiple ones, you've got duplication. Third, strip away that excess and consolidate your automated monthly contributions. Now, you might be wondering, okay, so when do I actually need to rebalance? If you've decided you do need a multi-fund setup, say your core equity ETF alongside a bond ETF like BND, you definitely need a disciplined rule for when to adjust them. Because over time, equities will generally grow much faster than bonds, and that's going to push your portfolio out of alignment. This is a real game changer right here. Vanguard's research suggests you really only need to rebalance when your allocations drift more than 5% from your target. But an even better trick? The new money rule. Simply direct your regular monthly contributions to whichever fund is currently lagging in value. Directing your new money handles the rebalancing for you. It naturally forces you to buy low without ever having to sell your winners or pay extra taxes on your gains. And as your wealth grows across different account types, here's a massive pro tip. Treat everything as one giant household portfolio. This completely opens the door for tax efficiency. For instance, bonds generate regular income that gets taxed pretty heavily, so you should stash your bond ETFs like BND inside tax-advantaged accounts like a Roth IRA or a traditional 401k. Meanwhile, keep your growth-focused equities like VT or VTI right there in your taxable brokerage accounts. It keeps the math super easy and your taxes low. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. It's incredibly tempting to build this massively complicated portfolio because it feels like you're actively doing something, right? But the data from our sources is crystal clear. True investment sophistication is choosing simplicity. It's about setting a robust, low-cost foundation, optimizing for taxes, ignoring the daily noise, and just letting time do the heavy lifting for you. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this helps you detox your portfolio.